Hey, how's it going?
It's good. It's good. So I remember I was looking at your socials, and one day you posted up a survey and a whole series around your name because I too thought your last name was Stanford.
Yeah. So did everybody else, as it turns out.
So I just thought that was a funny thing I wanted to share. Not that you asked me to share.
Thanks. Yeah, it's Tanford. You can put that in text up there with a T, not Stanford.
So I wanted to reach out to you because I found your profile on IG through the Apartment from Hell. And as you know,
Hmm.
I'm building Houstory. And so I wanted to ask you a couple of questions, maybe about that place, maybe about other places that you rented in New York. But
Yeah.
yeah, so if you can give your past self one piece of verifiable information about the landlord, building, or specific unit before you sign the lease, what would it be?
Hmm. One piece of verifiable information. I mean, the obvious thing would be previous complaints about the apartment, not everything is always working when you move in. I mean, my current place, for example, they advertised in building washer dryer. We're like, that's so sick. And it requires Wi Fi to connect to it to turn it on. And the basement has no phone reception or Wi Fi. So it's completely unusable. Um, Things like heater and AC units in my last place broke after a month. I'm sure that was a problem before. And those little things really add up because those amenities are how they get you into the building, and then the amenities don't even work. Um, that would be a really useful piece of information to have because I'm sure other people would have noted, hey, this thing broke. Landlord took 2 months to fix it. Doesn't seem like it's fully fixed, et cetera, et cetera. Does
Yeah,
that
I think the
answer it?
amenities. Well, yeah, well, I think the amenities piece is really interesting too because the places I lived, most of them didn't have any amenities. They were like, just regular old apartments. And then when I was like looking up all of these like new apartments that had the amenities, I had a feeling I was like, I don't know how long that's gonna last. It seems like shiny and new, but it's like when they build a new dorm on your college campus, and then in 6 months it's like trashed. It's worse than
Yes.
the old places.
Yeah, it's a lot of the places look really nice, and then you realize everything is actually crap that's in there. It just looks modern. And there's really no, they say, hey, there's an in-building washer. They don't add any other information. They just assume that you're going to see that and go, oh, sick. Let's go ahead and live there. And it's really frustrating when you come in and half the things you wanted in the building aren't functional.
Yeah, it's kind of like at work being like, "Oh, we have employee perks like pizza party on Fridays,
Yeah, and then it happens one time.
and you can only have one slice, and it's always Domino's, and it's always great."
Yeah, okay, well, I like Domino's, but I agree with your point.
All right, back to renting. So I wanted to ask this question. So beyond the rent and deposit, what was the most surprising or ambiguous fee or cost you had to pay, and how did it impact your budget or trust in the process?
Mm. Everything is more expensive than you think it's going to be. There's no transparency about around how much it costs to heat or air condition the building, or well, your room. Um, about like how much the bills actually cost. And then in my apartment from hell series, the biggest problem is that one of the roommates stopped paying, and we're all responsible for it as a unit, which means all of our costs now go up. And aside from the fact that I was paying more than my fair share anyway, um, the room had pretty high ceilings. I mean, 5 bedrooms. It was expensive to heat that place, and the building was freezing, so our heat bill was through the roof. And it was just, even if all 5 of us were splitting it, it was more than I expected. And you know, talking to people, like, I'd complain about it, and they'd all be like, "Yeah, welcome to New York City. That's just kind of how it goes here." Um, but the utility costs were really hard to navigate because I was on a pretty rail thin budget as it was.
Yeah, it's pretty sinister, especially in the winter and then the summer. The winter it spikes up because of the all of the random, what do they call them? The frost that come in, the vortex, right? It was vortex a couple of years ago. And then with the summer you have the rising heat costs. I lived in a building in Crown Heights where the heat was controlled by the landlord and it was 90 degrees in there. It was like Puerto Rico every single day. And I
Oh
had
my
my AC
god.
on year round. And they even lowered the heat, but I had my AC on year round. And people were like, "Why do you have your AC on?" And I was like, "Step into my place without the AC." And you
Yeah,
know
watch what
me.
happens when I turn it off.
So it was like, it felt like an energy soul suck place. But anyway,
Yeah.
yeah. Is there anything else about the apartment story that you would want to talk about that might be helpful for other people to know? Like a piece of advice, maybe?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the complications happened, I think, because our landlord was using multiple brokers to try to sell the apartment and fill the rooms. So they were all being filled individually by different people from different sources, but we're all on one lease. So obviously, I didn't know anything about the roommates. I just found a place that was in my budget, decent location. Fine, let's move in. Um, but that did mean throughout the process, I was completely blind. Like, I'd check in and be like, "Hey, how many are we waiting on? Who are the other roommates? What's their deal?" And my broker would be like, "I have no idea." Um, and it resulted in a bunch of people moving in who didn't really get along. And I don't think you need to live with someone that you like, but there needs to be some sort of system for like making sure that you can at least like have some sort of communication with the other potential roommates before you move in to kind of filter out, you know, real problems. Um and Yeah, it was just not a lot of absolutely no transparency. It was just, here's a room, do you want it or not? There will be other people here. I don't know who they are or when they're moving in, but they'll be here. Um which maybe it's more on me for deciding that was an okay way to move in, but
I don't know. That's reality. It's like so hard to afford a place by yourself. You have to move in with people. But
mhm.
I've noticed that that's been a thing. A lot of my friends have gone through as well, where you just kind of like hope. Um, I've also lived in a place in the Bronx where there was like this one guy. He would only rent to women, and that sounds weird. Yes, it
Yeah.
is weird. It's very weird. Um, but that meant all of my roommates except for him were women. So
Oh, he lived there too.
yeah, he lived there too.
I mean, generously, I would hope that he wants roommates with a higher standard of living, but that's not even necessarily true all the time.
He
That's
never cleaned.
weird.
He never cleaned. It was we that cleaned. And yeah, fun.
Yeah, this does make sense. Why did you do it?
Well, what had happened was, so I was working in the Bronx and I'm from Long Island. We've talked about that before. And I
Mhm.
had a dog. And this was after my apartment from hell. So my credit was trash. It was still recovering, but it was trash.
Mhm.
And I needed to find a place close to work because I don't get time for all that. And I found a place and I was like, this looks okay. And I got the space and it was like to help me find the place that I actually wanted to because it was a month to month. It wasn't actually a lease. It gave me
Mhm.
a lot of flexibility. And he was like very flexible with dogs and everything. So yes, it wasn't as bad as used to pull. There was black mold. I did get sick from it. The guy never cleaned. He actually owned the place and then just charged the rent to cover his mortgage.
Mm.
So,
Interesting.
yeah,
But that
and
isn't a that kind of goes back to my initial point of the more transparency with like problems with the building. Like my
Mhm.
current place had mold, a lot of it, and we didn't find out until my shower started leaking into my downstairs roommate's room, and they had to like tear out some of the wall to get to the piping, and it was straight black. And we told the landlord, and the landlord was like, "There's no mold." And we were like, "We are looking at mold. You have to come fix this." And it took kind of incessant calling and complaining before, after like a month, he was like, "All right, fine." And they redid the stuff. But there was enough, it's been there for a while. And I mean, basic housing code, I would think, says there can't be mold like that. I mean, people have allergies. It can get you really sick. Um,
Yeah, it's really insidious. I've actually know of a situation near Belmont, which is in Nassau County, right next to where I grew up in Belrose. And I had family friends move into a place. Their bedroom, their wall where the headboard was going to go, covered in black mold, and they just took white paint and covered it.
yeah, and that, good Lord.
I wish some of these things were fake, but like we learn growing up between right and wrong. Most of us go to pre-K or kindergarten or first grade or whatever, and then real life happens and people do things, and I don't know. Is it just laziness? Is it just they don't care, or what's the reason?
Yeah, probably all the above. Cheaper, easier. You don't live there, so it's not your problem. You just own the building. All of the above.
All the above. So, is there anything else about the rental journey that you think it's important for people to know or that you'd like to say?
Hmm. Don't rush. I think you spend so much time, especially in New York, it's such a madhouse looking for an apartment. Everyone's looking at 20 a day. You wait a day too long, someone takes the spot. But there's so many available apartments. If your gut, I mean, in every place I've moved in where I've had problems, there's been a voice in the back of my head like, this feels like a red flag. And I do it anyway because I don't want to have to go look at 10 more apartments, and I don't want to have to scramble at the last second. And then I move in and it's a disaster. And I knew it. Some part of me knew it. And I just ignored it because it was available and in my price range. But it's New York City. There are thousands of apartments available in your price range. And if you get a bad feeling for whatever reason, don't do it. It's not going to be worth it.
Yeah, that's valid. I also admit I was a pretty toxic renter in that when I was looking for places, I turned into the ultimate pick me because, and that just happens where you're just like, oh my god, pick me, choose me. There are rats on the floor. The floor is actually made of rats. That's okay. I'm okay.
Yeah. I almost moved into one. It was a studio in Chinatown. Perfect location for what I do. I
Yeah.
was like, it was 1,500 a month. I was like, this is
Oh,
probably an issue, but let's go look anyway. And it was like 200 square feet. There was actively mouse traps and roach tape sitting out that the broker didn't even bother to get rid of. No
yeah.
windows.
Yeah.
And I almost did it anyway just because of the location and the price, but I was like, "This is such a bad idea. I'm not gonna do this."
Yeah. I think now looking back, the piece of advice I'd give younger me would be okay, so you're taking the L on this because of location, because of price, because of whatever reason, but you're going to have psychological problems that are going to result from this. Like anytime you feel a tickle in your arm, you're going to be like, is that a
Yeah,
bed bug?
yeah,
Or anytime you hear a noise randomly, you're like, is somebody trying to break in?
yeah.
So,
The mental stability is always worth the inconvenience of the place. I'd rather be too far away from what I wanna do but happy than right next door and scared out of my mind every day.
yes. So you are advocating for people to leave New York City and to go back to their hometowns. Thank you.
Absolutely. I miss Indiana every day. I don't know why I'm still here. It's
All right.
insane.
Thanks, James.